All right, Fight Fam, it's about that time. That's right, Mr. Eddie Hearn, Mr. Matchroom himself is on with us. Eddie, it's just me today. No Barack once again.
Oh, is that because he won't interview me anymore? Because we always seem to have these arguments, you know.
Yeah, I guess he doesn't get the answers he wants out of you, so he's frustrated. He needed a break. No, listen, thanks for joining us as always. I got to get your opinion on everything that's going on in the world of boxing. Most recently, the cancellation of Jake Paul versus Rahman Jr. They both put out videos. There's two stories. I mean, I always say there's three stories to everything. Who do you think has the upper hand here in this situation while this fight was canceled?
I don't know. I mean, look, it's just such a mess, isn't it? Like the whole thing, it started with Tommy Fury, then it's Rahman, everyone's he said, she said. They've booked out Madison Square Garden. I mean, like, it's a circus, you know, all round. And the boxing, it's just like being in the ring itself. The boxing business is just not that easy and not that simple. And just like you can't just walk into the sport and step through the ropes and become a world champion, you can't just pick up the game and the business of boxing and start executing successful live events. Like, so Jake, Nikis, like they're learning that. I'm sure they've been a little bit unlucky. I'm sure they've been lied to a little bit, but they're under more pressure from people who will say it wasn't selling. You know, the pay-per-view weren't going anywhere. The kid was never gonna make weight. Did Tommy Fury really get denied it? Like there's just too many questions. And the problem will be the reputation of future events. You know, are we actually going to see this fight materialize? Because I feel a bit for Jake as well, because where he's quite unpopular within the industry, and I guess I can relate to this a little bit, like there'll always be people that will be trying to make sure that he doesn't make it, you know, or trying to make sure that someone doesn't make the fight, or, you know, so he's got it all against him. And he also has the inexperience of not working in the boxing business and understanding how everything works, you know, like they should have known really, and you should have enough about you to know that it's very unlikely that Rahman is going to make £200.
Right, I mean, but the commission, you know, I'm not sure if you know some of the technicalities. The commission said
they asked him to make 205. Yeah,
right.
But he can't even make 205. So, like, the kid had, 3 weeks to make the weight or whatever it was, like.
Right.
You know.
But, you know, we spoke to him the day after the cancellation, and he says that he didn't get enough time to agree to that. He countered and said, can we do it at 215?
In all fairness to Jake Paul, you can't counter once you've signed a contract and said, like he was very lucky that the commission said £205.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, you can't then go, well, I never pulled out the fight. I was willing to fight him at £215.
Right.
Well, that's not what you signed a contract at.
And then he said, you know, he said now after the fact, oh, I can make 205. Let's do it. But that was after the fact. It was too late. But as far, I mean, I mentioned this yesterday, Eddie, and I was thinking that maybe they were cutting their losses by canceling a fight a week earlier, because if they had moved forward with the event and come Friday weigh-in time, Rahman Jr. doesn't make the weight and they still don't want to fight him at 210 or whatever he would come in at, they would have to move forward with the event, pay the people on the undercard, and that pay-per-view doesn't do nothing.
They've still lost a lot of money. I know how it works. You know, they would have lost a lot of money on the event. The reality is that Rahman probably knew he was never going to make the weight, but thought, listen, we'll get closer. I'll get as close as I can. It's a lot of money for me. We'll see what'll happen. But when you're hiring out Madison Square Garden, right, and it's a Saturday night in August that they could have put on, I don't know, the Rolling Stones or a big event, it's not a good look for anybody.
Right.
But at the same time, whose fault is it? I don't know. Doesn't really matter. The fact is Jake Paul's not fighting. Even worse, Amanda Serrano's not fighting. And, you know, it's a blow for everybody. You know, DAZN, we're going to broadcast the event in the UK. Showtime have lost a pay-per-view. So it's a big disaster all around.
Yeah, you know, Mauricio Suleiman had mentioned, you know, a week or so before that fight that they were willing and they were going to rank Jake Paul had he beaten Rahman Jr. in the cruiserweight division. How do you feel about that?
Well, it depends where the ranking takes place. I mean, I believe they go down to 40 or 50 in their actual WBC rankings. I don't mind him entering down there. I think, you know, to enter the top 15, I think that would have been a little bit bold.
Right.
But, you know, I think Maurizio also sees the value of Jake Paul being aligned with his governing body, but he's got to be there on his own merits. Saying that, Rahman is not horrendous. Listen, as well, maybe they reschedule the fight. You know, give Rahman a little bit more time. There's been a lot of talk.
Right.
You know, I think people are probably more interested in that fight now than they were 2 or 3 weeks ago. So maybe they can reschedule.
You know, you mentioned Amanda Serrano. I want to play something for you. You might have seen this on our page, but this is Jake with a call to action to Katie Taylor, your fighter. Take a listen.
Katie Taylor, hey, I know you're watching. Why don't you come down to 126, go against Amanda Serrano in that weight class? Because she came up 9 pounds to fight you. You know, she didn't even look like she was in the same weight class that night. So come down to 126, see if you're really the pound for pound best. We have $2 million for you.
All right, Eddie. So that's Jake saying that he has $2 million for Katie Taylor for the rematch with Amanda in Ireland, but at a different weight class. Your thoughts on that?
It's just another example of him not knowing anything about the boxing business or boxing in general. You know, like, firstly, Katie Taylor has never boxed. I think when she debuted, she was like 133 pounds. We wanted so desperately for her to start her career at super featherweight, 130 pounds. She couldn't get close to it for championship weight. She never boxed there again. She's been a career lightweight. She's the undisputed world champion. She has her belts to defend. To suggest that she could fight at 126 is just the most ridiculous, idiotic thing anyone could say. But maybe he doesn't know about, you know, how a fighter can cut weight down in those divisions. You know, as far as he's concerned, you know, I've heard him talk about fighters can drop 28 pounds in a day in the UFC and stuff like that. Not Katie Taylor. So, you know, 130, like, it's not as ridiculous if you actually didn't know anything about Katie Taylor. But, you know, the reality is she's not going lower than 135 pounds. She's boxed once at 140 pounds. So is Amanda Serrano. Is 135 Amanda Serrano's best weight category? Maybe not. But she wanted to step up and make 5 times as much money as she's ever made before and challenge for the undisputed lightweight world title. The opportunity for a rematch is there. I mean, firstly, they feel like they won the fight. Right? I mean, in the same interview, he said, we all know Amanda Serrano won that fight. So if you won the fight, why wouldn't you do it again for more money? I mean, like, you know, but
I can't argue with that. You know,
the reality is, look, I'm sure that Amanda Serrano would prefer it at 130, but Katie Taylor, she's never boxed at 130. She will never box at 130. But if Amanda Serrano thinks that she beat her before and she can have another crack at that for more money than she made last time in a bigger event, in an iconic event in front of 80,000 people, but they chose to take an easier fight and have a little run out and get paid. No problem with that. But by the way, that didn't happen. They now need to find another slot for Amanda Serrano, or they can pick up the phone and make the rematch.
So there's still room for that to happen.
Always. Listen,
all that happened.
Listen, I like Jake, I like Nikita, I like Amanda. We put on together, and the real stars were Katie and Amanda.
A phenomenal show.
Together, one of the greatest shows of all time, one of the greatest fights of all time.
It was one of the most insane events I've ever been to.
This should be such a natural fight to make again. Like, everyone should just go, no, the girls can't make as much money unless they fight each other. It was a brilliant fight. You thought you won, we thought we won. Split decision, whatever. Let's run it back.
Yeah, I mean, and not to mention that there's still those titles at 135, so the fight is just even more that meaningful, even though those girls, created an incredible event, one of the best that I've ever been to in my life. Now, what about the $2 million that Jake is speaking of? Is that something that the people should be wild about?
It's irrelevant because it would be to make a weight that she couldn't make. So, that Jake wanted to bet me $1 million on the fight, so he's got a lot of millions to throw around apparently. So But the reality is, you know, Katie Taylor is, we're happy to do another co-promotion. Both girls are going to make more than they made in the first fight. And so they should. It was epic. So it's like, it doesn't have to be like, yeah, well, we're going to do our own thing. Well, why don't you do this and we'll pay this? No, it's just a phone call to say, guys, let's all stop being idiots and let's make the rematch one of the greatest fights we've ever seen.
Well, hopefully that happens.
If we can't, we can't. And it's not, you know, we shake hands and we move on, but it just seems ridiculous.
So as of now, if that doesn't happen, who's on Katie Taylor's radar?
A few, you know, we've got champions at 135, at 130. We got, you know, maybe fights at 140. It looks like Chantel Cameron's going to fight Jessica McCaskill, which is a tremendous fight. Maybe she fights the winner of that. Maybe she fights Cyborg. Maybe she fights Holly Holm, but not. There's no point lying. We want Serrano. That's the biggest fight out there, and it will always be the biggest fight out there. And hopefully we can get to a point where, I know Katie's will fight anyone, and hopefully Amanda will look at the opportunity and the payday and say, yeah, let's do it again. And, you know, if they feel they won the fight, why on earth would you not want to do it again?
Yeah, I mean, one of the fights I'm looking forward to the most. Now, let's move forward to a fighter that had a long layoff, coming off of a loss, and had a phenomenal performance, in my opinion, in Danny Garcia over Jose Benavidez. Did you get a chance to watch that fight?
I haven't seen the fight. No, I watched a bit of the Adam Konaki fight against Ali Demezrian. Saw some clips of Danny Garcia. I mean, I don't know. I kind of feel like Danny Garcia is of that previous generation of fighters, you know? Like, I don't mean that disrespectfully. I still think he's a great fighter, and, you know, right. he was a great advocate for mental health as well, some great words and stuff like that. But like, I look at Keith Thurman, you know, now talking about fighting Danny Garcia again, like up at 154. I mean, I'm not being funny,
right?
But who is interested in that? I mean, unless I'm missing something.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm trying to get Keith Thurman to fight Conor Benn, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at that fight going, wow, like Keith Thurman, one-time great welterweight, still potentially a great welterweight. Conor Benn, this young, fearless lion from Britain, wants to come over and let's just have a crossroads fight. I'm looking at Thurman Garcia 2 and going,
yeah, maybe you're not that excited over that fight. I mean, the first one was very close and a very entertaining fight.
I'd like to see Danny Garcia fight Conor Benn.
That was my next question.
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, everyone knows we are in discussions for the Chris Eubank fight. It's like I said, generational fight that will be one of the biggest of all time over here. But we also are focused on 147 pounds and Conor Benn's development. And the Danny Garcia fight is a tremendous fight for Conor Benn. It's a very dangerous fight because Danny's a brilliant fighter. But I just feel like intriguing matchups is what we want.
So it's safe to say that we're not locked in for Benn Eubank Jr.
Not yet. You know, again, that fight is just huge, but we are not signed, you know, there's still a way to go on that. And I can't tell you, certainly can't guarantee you, but I can't really tell you with extreme confidence that fight is next. So we have to keep our options open, and Keith Thurman and Danny Garcia are two fights that we'd love to make.
But how optimistic are you about Eubank Benn?
I think with a lot of common sense,
yeah,
the fight gets done like that, you know? And so I hope that prevails.
All right, Eddie, it's been mentioned that AJ, Anthony Joshua, wants to go back out in December. So looking ahead, but he has a big fight against Usyk. Who are you looking for? Who's on the radar should he get past Usyk?
Well, I think, you know, it's an August fight. We really want to get active with AJ. I think he's struggled with activity, mainly through the pandemic, but also because the size of his shows. But he wants to win, lose or draw a fight in December. Obviously, we're going for the win, and I believe he's going to be victorious. And if so, we'd look straight for the Tyson Fury fight for undisputed. You know, it's the biggest fight out there in boxing, the biggest fight of all time. But, you know, the key for AJ is activity for sure.
Is there any truth to the rumor that there'll be a Derek Chisora Tyson Fury fight come December?
Someone's reached out to Derek Chisora, someone random actually, about that fight. So I don't know. I mean,
someone on Tyson Fury's team.
Yeah, sort of not one of his promoters, or I don't know if he's still under contract with anyone, but just a few talks. And few whispers about money, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure I see Fury Chisora happening anytime soon, but they have made him, I guess, an informal offer, but we'll see what happens.
Now, as far as we all know that Canelo Alvarez is fighting Triple G come September 17th, big fight ahead of him, but on his radar, Dimitri Bivol is still there. He wants to avenge that loss, but there are other guys in the light heavyweight division. How's the Gilberto Ramirez, Dimitri Bivol talk going?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was our intention to do Dimitri Bivol against Joshua Buatsi or Callum Smith next. The WBA ordered a mandatory, which we'll see if there's a time for a voluntary in between, but he will have to fight Gilberto Ramirez at some point, maybe even next. So, you know, Dimitri Bivol is focused on becoming undisputed really in the division, and also focused on another mega fight with Canelo Alvarez, but he has to defend his belt in the meantime. And, you know, after his Canelo victory, he'll be looking for a lot of money to do that, and he's ready for all comers, whether that's Joshua Buatsi, whether that's Callum Smith, whether that's Gilberto Ramirez. A Canelo Alvarez fight, you know, obviously Canelo's got to fight Triple G first anyway on September 17th, but, you know, a Bivol Canelo fight could take place in May of next year, but certainly he'll have to have one, maybe even two fights before that date.
You promote Dimitri Bivol, and you just mentioned that what he wants is undisputed. I mean, undisputed at light heavyweight division. Why is it so difficult to make an Arthur Beterbiev fight?
To be honest, we were ready. You know, I've said in many interviews before, you know, Beterbiev beat Joe Smith. Top rank should have been looking immediately at Dimitri Bivol, in my opinion. You know, that undisputed fight is there. It could happen at the end of this year. They're talking about fighting Anthony Yard in London, Beterbiev. I don't know why there was no conversations for an undisputed fight, but it is what it is. Dimitri Bivol's got lots of options, you know, not just Buatsi and Ramirez.
But that would be your first option as well.
I think that would be Dimitri Bivol. Yeah, I think he wants to be undisputed. That's every champion's aim. And Dimitri Bivol against Beterbiev is a tremendous fight. I make Dimitri Bivol the favourite in that fight, but Beterbiev is a tremendous puncher. You know, extreme power. It's just a brilliant fight. So
yeah,
you know,
so there are no issues with you and Bob and Top Rank. You'll make that fight.
We'll make that fight this winter for sure.
Oh man, well, I'm looking forward to it. And obviously, you know, we all saw the undercard for Canelo Triple G, the trilogy. I mean, we got Rodriguez on there, Ammo Williams,
Ammo against Conway. You got Diego Pacheco. You got so many tremendous fights on that undercard. You know, I really feel like that's one of the best undercards we've put together. Obviously, Canelo Triple G headlining. You've got all our young kids in great fights as well. Right, so it's a brilliant card.
Yeah, I mean, Jesse Rodriguez obviously is an explosive fighter that everybody's couldn't wait to see him back. And
by the way, Ali Akhmedov against Gabe Rosado.
Yes.
What a fight that is. I mean, that's going to be an absolute war.
Yeah, people are going to get their money's worth.
Absolutely.
Come September 17th. Eddie, as always, thank you. And I'm going to let you slide on the exclusive because I think I know what it was going to be, but you can't give it to me yet. So I'll wait till next week.
Clock is ticking.
All right. Take it easy. Cheers.